That's how nature works. One moment you're a formidable predator, feared both in the sea and on land. And the next thing you know, you become prey yourself. But not to a bigger predator, to a damn tiny barnacle. Yes, welcome to real shark life and meet Anolosma squalicola barnacles, which feed on sharks. Being just 1 inch long, this barnacle attaches to the side of a shark and drains nutrients from its flesh. Apparently, the barnacle has recently made an evolutionary leap from filter feeding to parasitism and still retains many traits of its former life. For example, these barnacles still have cirri that other species use to filter water. But now there's no point in having them. Anolosma attaches to the flesh just like it used to attach to rocks, slips a special organ inside, and starts eating. And it does it in a very peculiar way. The thing is, there's virtually endless food resource, that is tissue and blood, available less than 1/10 of an inch below the attachment site. But Anolosma doesn't use it. Nobody knows why. And for some reason, there's never any inflammation around the attachment site. Therefore, most likely the shark doesn't even perceive the parasite as a parasite. It's just something like a new part of its body. Though actually, Anolosma are neither harmful nor beneficial for the host. Unlike whale barnacles, they attach themselves to whales, but not to feed on the animal. Rather, the whale barnacles use the whales for speed, passively filtering food with their cirri as the whale swims around. This arrangement can hardly be called mutually beneficial, at least because the whale can't do anything about the barnacles attached to it. However, sometimes whales use them as armor, or as a weapon to boost the force of impact during battles over a female or in fights with orcas. At the same time, some species of whale barnacles may simply increase the drag experienced by the host while swimming, which allows to qualify them as parasites. Some whales have been observed scratching their crustacean patches on the hulls of boats, so perhaps the parasites do cause them discomfort, since the hosts want to get rid of them. By the way, it's believed that one humpback whale can collect up to 990 pounds of barnacles. It seems like a huge mass, but compared to the whale's own weight, which reaches 30 tons, a pile of barnacles will weigh about the same as an extra layer of clothes. At this point, I thought how good it is that barnacles don't attach to people. Then Steve told me the story of a guy named Chris Johnson who discovered a weird growth in his hand, and yeah, it was a barnacle. Everyone was shocked. The doctors, Chris himself, and possibly the barnacle too. Naturally, the parasite was removed, and the guy had to go through a long, painful recovery. On the one hand, perhaps whales don't experience this level of pain. On the other hand, there is a theory that says that whales get stranded precisely because of the parasites. Well, barnacles don't have anything to do with that. This theory appeared in the 1970s. Back then, there was an article about 23 whales found dead on the shore. In each of them, with the exception of 2, they discovered tiny worm-like parasites in the middle ear and sinuses. And there were a lot of them. Which is why scientists suggested that parasites make whales partly deaf and therefore unable to navigate in the water. Everyone remembers that whales use echolocation, right? In addition, the stranded whales had empty stomachs, which is why scientists concluded that poor creatures also found it hard to hunt. But at least whales don't carry xenomorphs inside them. I'm talking about tiny crustaceans of the Phronema genus, and they're really creepy. They kill the plankton, eat the insides, then ride the ocean in the cold, dead plankton husk, as if it were a boat. Moreover, these crustaceans don't just kill their prey, they pierce it with their front claws, carve away their jelly-like insides, leaving enough tissue to ensure buoyancy. Later, Phronema lays its eggs in what was once plankton, and the cycle starts over. Also, their offspring burst through what was left of the host's body. Sounds like the Alien movie, right? No wonder. There's a rumor that Phronema actually influenced the design of the Queen of Alien Monsters. Most likely this is just a cinematic legend, but this doesn't make Phronema any less frightening. However, don't think the story about sea xenomorphs is the scariest thing in today's video. That is, it's certainly creepy, but there are still more than enough plots for horror movies in the world's oceans. In the 1990s, they caught a short-fin mako shark weighing more than 880 pounds. That is, it was really huge. But the real surprise was waiting inside the shark. There were 2 eels. I mean, literally, 2 eels lived in the shark's heart for some time. And for some reason, neither the shark nor the eels were bothered by this co-living. Scientists have not been able to figure out how the eels got so deep in the shark in the first place, but they managed to determine their species. Turned out these are the so-called snub-nose eels. This species is known to use its powerful jaws and teeth to burrow into larger fish for parasitic existence. Though it's one thing to live somewhere under the skin and quite another to get to the heart. Moreover, the test showed that the eels were alive at the time of the death of the shark. Perhaps they got inside through the gills and ended up in the heart, where they fed on blood and felt fine, not intending to get out. Later, in 2008, another similar case was recorded. Ever heard the expression butterflies in the stomach? Usually it means you're falling in love or just being nervous. I wonder what it means to have eels in the heart. And you know what? The mere fact that a shark might have been resting somewhere on the sea bottom and then two eels swam inside of it through its gills is still not the creepiest thing you'll learn today. The thing is, snake eels can do much worse. When they're eaten, these eels can burst out of the predator's stomach by slicing it open with their hard-tipped tails. In ordinary life, these tails help eels cut through the seabed, but when the eels feel threatened, the tail can work like a scalpel. True, snake eels still can't get out of the stomach completely. They get stuck and eventually mummify in the gut cavity. Now imagine you're a white shark, a formidable predator that swims the ocean looking for prey, sometimes to an ominous soundtrack. You swim past a flock of leerfish, but they aren't intimidated by you. Instead, they start pursuing you. And not just pursuing, they're rubbing against your tail. And so hard as if you ordered some kind of spa treatment and forgot about it. But most likely, it's leerfish who use the shark as a pumice stone, getting rid of their parasites and bacteria. This is a fairly common behavior, and these exfoliating sessions can last anywhere from 8 seconds to over 5 minutes. Sometimes it's just one leerfish, sometimes there's 100 of them rubbing at the same time. While some sharks don't care about the fish rubbing against them, others get very annoyed. Well, you can understand them. I also don't like it when strangers touch me, let alone when they start rubbing against me. But in the world's oceans, there's no concept of social distancing, so sharks have to wriggle and dive to shake off the annoying leerfish. Sharks don't try to eat this small fry. This would take too much energy. These predators prefer prey they don't have to chase, so they just have to be patient. Poor things. It's worth saying there are other fish that stay close to sharks, but predators don't mind. These are pilotfish. Sharks not only tolerate their presence, but even welcome it. In exchange for protection, the pilotfish rid the shark of parasites and clean up bits of leftover food. The level of trust between the animals is so high that a pilotfish even swims into the shark's mouth to nibble away food debris. Sometimes they really bond with each other. It's known that if you catch a shark and pull it onto a boat, the pilotfish will follow it for a while, sometimes for up to 6 weeks. Though maybe the pilotfish just can't see the difference between the shark and the boat. But you see, when it comes to marine parasites, they're perceived as something far off and obscure, something that should bother only marine creatures. So people can't really relate to that. What about lice? That's something humans would understand, though unexpectedly enough, it's the salmon that suffers from these parasites. Sea lice are very small copepods that have learned to feed on salmon to survive. It's clear that they can't simply eat the whole fish like some kind of bear since they're very small, but sea lice do exactly what you expect from lice. They feed on mucus, skin, and blood. This makes the fish more susceptible to bacteria, viruses, and fungi. After all, lice leave small wounds as they eat. Also, damage to the skin affects the salt balance of the fish. Well, if there are too many sea lice on salmon, they can even kill the fish. People probably would not have realized that salmon suffer from such serious problems if they hadn't been breeding it for sale. Sea lice have a bad effect on business, so people decided to fight them. At first, they used chemicals and meds. Then they decided that this wasn't a good idea, so they began to give the fish bath treatment. I'm serious. They put salmon in a treatment tank with heated salt water. Its temperature reached 93 degrees Fahrenheit. It took about 30 seconds for the lice to die and fall off. True, when the researchers studied this issue, it turned out that the salmon actually got hurt, so bath treatment had to be abandoned. Now salmon farms are surrounded by a fence. When I first heard about fences used against lice, I thought it was total nonsense. I mean, lice are tiny. how can fences help? Turns out, electric fences with a low current are actually helpful. It generates an electromagnetic field that affects salmon lice at the larval stage so that they simply can't attach to the fish. So far, this method works. In any case, scientists have not yet figured out how salmon reacts to electric fences. Well, if the fish don't like them, there's another option: wrasses. These small fish swim with salmon, plucking and eating sea lice. This is an easy and nature-friendly way. To be honest, it should be said that not only salmon suffer from lice, dolphins also have them. But in this case, you can only feel sorry for the parasites. No, really. Lice have a hard time when they deal with dolphins. To feel good, they must attach securely to the host, eat well, and find someone nearby to mate with. However, dolphins are slippery and damn fast creatures, and scientists still can't figure out how their lice can survive on them at all. The main task of sea lice is to reduce the likelihood of being washed away when the host moves. To burrow into the skin and hold on tight, sea lice have evolved flattened bodies, sharp claws on their legs, and spiny bellies. They hide in the folds of the skin and other relatively protected places, trying to stay near the respiratory tract, around the eyes and in the corners of the mouth. Whales also suffer from similar lice, but whale lice feel much more comfortable. There are a lot of places on their host, and it's relatively slow, so lice can breed actively. There can be thousands of lice on the body of one whale. At the same time, scientists say that a male parasite living on a dolphin will be very lucky if it manages to meet at least one female in his life. Obviously, most of the time, dolphin lice are just trying to hang on tight. So in general, dolphins aren't particularly affected by parasites. On average, one dolphin has less than 5 lice, and some even have one parasite. Well, these are very, very lonely lice. See you later.